let's talk about the 49ers. At these owners meetings, John Lynch said that the 49ers do plan to use the the 5th-year option tag.
Fifth.
Oh, see, I told you could sing, and that's without the brewskis, right? The 5th-year option tag on wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, which will be for about 14 point something million dollars, which means next year, you hear what I'm saying? Next year on the books, the 49ers will have to pay Deebo Samuel 20 plus million, and you got to count in the 14 million until they work out a deal. We can't say that they're going to work out a deal because we just don't know. But we're thinking that that's something that can possibly happen. Or let's talk about possible trade scenarios, because a lot of people do not want Brandon Ayuk to be traded, including myself, including John. But this is a business. And I have to ask you this question, John. Can you see the 49ers spending over $40 million a year on wide receivers?
No, but you don't have to. You don't have to. And here's why. You pick up the 5th-year option. That's no-brainer. 100% happening. That's $14 million, right?
Correct.
But what the 49ers have done with first-round players like Nick Bosa, they're doing it this year. Brandon Ayuk will be extended next year before that cap hit happens. Just like Bosa's about to get extended before his cap hit happens. So that $14 million cap hit will drop down to about $6 million.
Can we
once
pause?
He gets his extension done?
Let's put a pause on this, because when does the cap hit happen? That's what I'm like. When is that date?
So
I thought the number had to be in by March 15th.
So very similar. It's a hard cap, right?
Yes.
So just like with Bosa's cap hit right now is hitting, once he redoes his deal. So like the 49ers is sitting at like $2 million cap space currently, right?
Yes.
So they're good. But once they redo his deal, they'll go from 2 million cap space to like 14 million cap space.
Correct. That I get. I'm just saying, but does that have to be done as long as they're under the cap by March 15th? The rest doesn't matter.
That's correct. And then you'll be able to finagle it later.
Yes.
So yes, at March 15th, I do believe, just like with Nick Bosa's deal right now, they will be there. So at March 15th, they'll be at that number that you get. Was it 40 million? They will. But when the season starts, I think that's going to drop down to like 33, 34 million.
So, but here's the problem though, John, because if we look up and we pull up, they're going to be over the cap. So because you got to count in his 14 million, you got to factor in. We talk about March 15th. We're not talking about any other date. And so by March 15th, Trent Williams is getting 20 plus. Fred Warner is getting 20 plus. Nick Bosa is going to be getting whatever that number is, not this year to go down. So he'll lessen the cap this year, but it'll probably be like intermediate next year. It won't be high. It won't be high till like 2-3 years from now.
Correct.
So that might help. Deebo is going to be 20 plus. And so I know the number is going to go up, but if the 49ers are sitting over the cap, then now you're going to have cap casualties by March 15th. You're going to have to let some people go.
I think that it will continue to kind of work itself out. You're talking about paying wide receivers, right? Well, guess what? Ray McCloud expiring contract this year. Juwan Jennings expiring contract this year.
How much is that costing you? Those are only costing you maybe $3-4 million.
Yeah, but I think that that's going to cover what it's going to cost, because
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, like that $4 million. I mean, what's Brandon Ayuk worth cap wise? I think he's worth about $15 million a year.
Correct.
Maybe more. And so you're going to be able to carry that number. I'm not too concerned about it. And again, we're going to be rolling forward money next year.
That's true. You're going to
get money back. Once they redo Bosa's deal,
here it is.
That cap will roll forward. So if you look at the adjusted cap numbers this year, the 49ers are third. They've got an extra $12 million suspended cap this year because they roll forward every year. They're going to do that again next year.
Correct. And you get some money back based off of players not making their incentives and things like that. So you're spot on. But let's talk about trade scenarios. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Brandon Ayuk. The 49ers, the draft is coming up soon. Do you see any trade scenarios with any players this particular year before the draft? Let's talk about just before the draft only. We don't care about after the draft. Because there will be a trade deadline, and I don't think we trade players. We actually trade for players. That's kind of
correct.
Weird. Yeah. Okay.
That's kind of the MO. If I'm looking at positions that the 49ers just have like a ridiculous amount of, just depth and whatever else where they could quote unquote afford to see somebody go, running back comes to mind. So I know people keep bringing up Eli Mitchell. Yeah, he's on a cheap deal, so every team would want him. The injury concern is going to drive his value down. So I could stomach that. Don't think it'd happen, but if I was picking somebody that they were going to trade, it would be Elijah Mitchell and then one of the defensive tackles. And again, it has to be cap friendly. So Armstead, not cap friendly to trade. Hargrave, obviously not. But Kinlaw, perhaps. I don't think there's value there. I don't think teams are going to be paying very high for him. Givens would make sense. That makes sense. So if there's two players that I'm like, okay, because of positions, because of salaries that would be attractive to other teams, same reason why they're attractive to us, by the way, Kevin Givens, Elijah Mitchell. Those two would be the names that I would circle. Don't want to trade them. I'm not saying to trade them. I'm saying what other teams would look at our roster and say, that player could start for us. Those are the two names that come to mind.
So not only will the other team say, hey, that player can start for us, they're also cap friendly.
Yes.
So it won't hurt
makes them
their
attractive
pockets
to everybody.
So okay, that's fair. It's funny because we feel like when you look at the 49ers and you're saying like, oh man, what did they do in the offseason? Names for trades that come up, all right, are, I hate to say it, a player like Brandon Ayuk. Why? Because the 49ers do have to look forward to the future. And the question is, are they going to have two big time wide receivers getting paid number one money, technically, sort of, kind of? I know people don't like to talk about it, but it's a real topic, right? Because they can just draft another wide receiver and keep replenishing it. But the fact that they moved up and traded up for him to get him in the first round helps the 49ers out a lot. Notice the things that they're doing. They're so on point. So that's a big thing. So I do feel like Brandon Ayuk will not go anywhere. There's also the other first round pick that year in Javon Kinlaw. Now, they made it clear that they plan on using him this year. Do you possibly see him to be in some type of a trade scenario? He's only on the books for about $4 million, and he possibly can be a starter somewhere else.
So the question is, okay, what could you get for him? Maybe a fifth or a sixth. I don't know. Let's put that out there. Well, guess what? Allow him to play out his last year.
Correct.
And then what's he going to do? He's going to go sign somewhere else. Very similar to Cleveland Farrell did with us, right? Just inverted. You're going to get a comp pick for that anyway. So why not? I don't believe in selling low. I don't like that. And so if you were going to trade Javon Kinlaw for a 6th-round pick this year, does that help this draft class? Is having 12 picks over 11 picks? You've already got a 6th and 4 7ths. I would much rather allow Javon Kinlaw to be a rotational piece and just see. Maybe he'll thrive in that situation. Maybe he won't. And then he moves on. He's going to get another contract because of his body, because of his draft pedigree, because of all those things, his size. He's getting paid somewhere. So next year, what did Cleveland Farrell get? $2.5 million? What Kinlaw going to get? 3? We got a comp pick for Solomon Thomas. Same thing. You let him play it out. He's a positive locker room guy, works his ass off all the freaking time. Like, he's not toxic by any stretch. Good dude with a great story. And this shows to your locker room too, man, we're going to stand by our guys. He's our guy. I wouldn't take that trade because, again, you'll get a comp pick the following year, more than likely.
Very well said. Very well said. So
I'm not good at clickbait stuff, Wade.
I'm not even trying to make up clickbait stuff. This is more like I just want to get your trade scenarios possibly for the San Francisco 49ers, and you gave them to me. I'm just giving you 3 names that kind of could be traded for the 49ers to, they kind of draft, they signed a player in free agency over him. I want Kinlaw to be here for whatever purposes, depth. I feel like he's gonna have some type of a breakout season. Anything better than what he's been giving me is breakout for me. And the fact that he's healthy, he's coming into camp healthy, he's going to be a rotational piece now. They made that clear. There's a possibility he can really show up and show out, which is great for him. You know why?
Yes.
Because next year he can go out and up his value and try to get paid a little bit more than a Cleveland Farrell guy or whatever or what like that as a rotational piece. So we'll see. I'm all in on Kinlaw this year. I'm hoping the Niners are all in as well. Last trade scenario. We do have a plethora of quarterbacks, and I know we're talking about the quarterback situation. We're going to get into that a little bit next about the franchise guy. Any offer that will blow you away to trade one of these quarterbacks other than, I guess, Sam Darnold?
Yeah, it's going to be rough to trade Sam Darnold now. You just paid him, whatever else.
Yeah.
So you're talking Trey Lance. Like, again, if I'm not getting a top 12 pick, I'm not interested. I don't think that market exists.
No.
I'm not trading a healthy quarterback that I invested high in. Buy low, sell high. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's stupid. I mean, that's just what you got to do. And if you paid all that, what have you seen to tell you that he couldn't be it? I don't think we've seen that. Have we seen that he's a bust? No. We just ain't seen him play. Now you got a chance to see him play. And again, his capital, like whatever he is at now, Trey Lance, isn't changing next year. You still got him under contract next year, too. So that trade, whatever you would want to do for Trey Lance, you could do next year. If Brock was 100% healthy and you were just like, man, this is our guy for the future, all right, cool. We could have that conversation. But for me right now, is there a top 12 team that's willing to trade? You know, Houston's picking 12. Do they want to do that trade? I don't think so. So I don't think that it makes sense for a team because I don't think you're going to get the value you want. It doesn't make sense for the 49ers because he's a healthy guy. You just got to roll with Sam Darnold and, you know, some draft pick until Brock comes back. I do not want to do that. But if I got a top 12 pick, I would entertain the conversation. I don't like it, but that's where my price would be.
That's why we're here, man. I wanted to get your price. Big Papa says, why would Shanahan uninsulate his quarterback room? Think about it.
No sense. Not with the question marks of Brock.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. Again, it's not our job. Like, it's their job. It could make sense to, if they get a top 12 pick. We don't know what that number is. It could be a top 15 pick, be a top 20 pick. If they feel like they're all in on a Brock Purdy, even though he's not healthy, they might be really sold in on this Sam Darnold guy. I feel like Kyle Shanahan has been highly talking about Sam Darnold more than he's talked about Trey Lance. And so maybe he's all in. He's going to draft a quarterback or sign an undrafted guy or some type of other free agent. Clearly that's going to be another route because he said he wanted to go in there with 3 quarterbacks. He wanted to go into camp with 3 quarterbacks. Brock Purdy won't make the 3rd quarterback if he's not in camp. Even though he'll be there, he can't participate. So there's some interesting things going around. I mean, if they do Trey Lance, how are you going to go in there with 3 quarterbacks, right? So it's a lot of stuff going on. Go ahead, John.
If you traded Trey Lance right now, you would lose cap savings. It would cost you an extra $1.8 million to trade him against your cap.
Move. Yeah, not a good business move.
Help it make sense.
Unless somebody's willing to pay that within the trade. Because you can always work stuff like that. You can always ask for cash.
Very true. Very true.
So let's keep it a buck. I mean, I hate to say it, you know, players get traded for cash, and this is why, so they can pay off that little debt. You know what I mean? But it's not happening. So at the end of the day, Trey Lance, like you said earlier, is going to get his shot.